Hello, I'm Matthew Saxton, and today I'm going to tell you about Merritt Ashton Jerome and some of his economic and entrepreneurial experiences in the early to mid 20th century. The major forces of industrialization were hard at work in the Midwest well before the birth of Merritt Ashton Jerome on March the 5th, 1880. According to David Mayer, in his 1989 article, Midwestern Industrialization and the American Manufacturing Belt in the 19th Century, since the end of the Civil War, urban populations almost doubled, the rail network expanded exponentially, and the industrialization flourished across the Midwest. Michigan, beginning in Detroit and Grand Rapids, experienced that growth along with Pittsburgh, Cleveland, and Chicago. The population growth and industrialization of Flint, Michigan came slower and later than it did in those cities. In a 2014 article for MLive News, David Harris wrote that between 1870 and 1890, the population of Flint grew only slightly more than 4,400. But between 1890 and 1920, the population grew by almost 82,000, and by 1940, it had grown by nearly 60,000 more inhabitants. Merritt grew up in this world of rapid growth and industrialization. To say that his generation would benefit from a willingness to learn and innovate would be an understatement. Merritt saw his future in the growing sector of electricity. Though he only completed 2 years of secondary school, around 1904, Merritt traveled to Washington, D.C. to pursue an education in the electrical trade at the Bliss Electrical School. Graduating in 1906, Merritt moved back to Genesee County and married his high school sweetheart, Miss Lydia Pearson. In 1917, a few years after his father passed away, Merritt sold the 70-acre farm in order to pursue his dream of doing something with his life other than farming. He was able to do this because of the rising prices of land in Michigan. When Merritt purchased the farm in 1906, it was worth $1,800. When he sold it, the farm was worth $3,600. With those funds in hand, in May of 1917, Merritt and his younger brother Seth purchased the flour mills at Goodrich, Michigan. According to the article announcing the purchase in the Flint Journal, the two planned to remodel the mill, build a new concrete dam, and install a, quote, electric lighting plant and supply electricity for the town. They did remodel the mill and partially reinforce the dam, but the electric plant was apparently beyond their capital investment limits. Instead, and possibly with the memory of their recently deceased brother in mind, they installed a telephone office and helped to wire many area homes for electricity. Merritt continued to run the mill, and his wife and daughters ran the telephone office until around 1925, when his oldest daughter Alice married Thorold Green, who worked out a rent-to-own agreement with his father-in-law and began to run the mill. By 1927, Merritt had purchased a gas station in Montrose, Michigan, and fortunately for him and his family, he operated it for only a short time, selling it just prior to the stock market crash of 1929. Merritt's economic windfall allowed him to purchase the new telephone office in Montrose, Michigan. By 1930, he owned the business and the home adjacent to it outright. It was valued at $3,000 on the 1930 census. Although he was in his 50s, for the next several years, Merritt went on the road, following in his older brother's footsteps after all, helping to string telephone, telegraph, and electrical wire across the state of Oregon. Merritt's good fortune did not outrun the negative effects of old age and the Depression. According to the 1940 census, he was still employed as an electrician, but he was renting a home in remote Sterling, Michigan for $15 a month and had a reported income of $900 for 1939. With the outbreak of war in late 1941, providence again shone on Merritt, and in 1942, at age 57, he had relocated to Flint and was now working for General Motors as an electrician. He remained employed at the Fisher Body plant until 1947, when, at the age of 62, he finally retired. Merritt died at his home on Jane Avenue at 1 a.m. on January 25, 1958. He was 77. His wife Lydia lived a comfortable life for 20 years after his death. After over 50 years together, a life that saw them through 2 world wars and the Great Depression, they were buried together in Montrose Cemetery, only a few miles from where they had run the telephone company. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this journey through the economic and entrepreneurial experiences of Merritt Ashton Jerome.